These guys were not bathing. They were not taking showers and eating great food, or at least decent army food, and so on and so forth. So it gives you that connection back to, you read the stories, and I'm a big history nut. You can read these stories from soldiers from the Revolutionary War or the Civil War, or anywhere in between American history, and they're talking about like a lot of these same challenges and everything, and not being able to. Their letters back home to mom and dad on the farm. They're talking about not being able to bathe. They're talking about not being able to eat good quality food for the day. And so it gives you that, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about those missions, because it really gives you a great appreciation for what that soldier life in a time of war really is, and what it's really about. Whenever I was younger, I was a little uneasy with this terminology and things. Thank you for your sacrifices, and great and small. Well, to me, it was just all one big thing. And as I've gotten older and I've been able to extrapolate and compartmentalize the experiences that I had, I can definitely understand what those small sacrifices are, what the big sacrifices are, and everything in between. And back then, to me, it was all just one big thing. And then the greatest sacrifice, of course, was sacrificing your life, and which is definitely the ultimate sacrifice. But being in those environments, being on those missions, was really a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so the deployment ends, and of course you're relieved to go home, but you're saying goodbye to a lot of your friends and so on and so forth. And Eugene and I had developed this really close relationship, and which we still have today. And he's in Colorado present day, but he's out of the Army. And I think the only one that's still in the Army is Bernard from our team. But and he's doing great at Fort Benning, or excuse me, Fort Bragg. But the memories that you create and everything. And again, you're glad to go home, but you hate to say goodbye to your friends. And that's again something that you experienced and you share with millions of those who have served all through America's history. And it's something that if you really think about, I mean, you can find yourself kind of, especially me, kind of, tearing up about, because it connects you with those guys who served all the way through the American Revolution, those guys who served all the way through World War II together and everything. Probably the most famous example of World War II is Easy Company, from the 506, the Band of Brothers guys, especially the guys who had served together from Camp Toccoa. And I've been to Camp Toccoa a couple of times. It's a wonderful little place. They're trying to actually, I'm going to do a podcast just on that, but they're trying to kind of really bring back that camp. There's a full group there that works there, all volunteers. And but you share these connections and these stories that they're interchangeable. Forget the year, forget the branch. The Army can be the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines, and one day the Space Force, and so on and so forth. And we'll all have these same kind of connections, and we're all, it's one team, one fight, truly. And but one of the things too is that we share is dealing with the aftermath of the deployment in a war environment. And what does that entail? What does that feel like? What does it look like? And that all starts as you first get back. And I was, basically dismissive that I had really changed a lot. And didn't understand and recognize the significant things that was taking place in myself, and I was kind of just pressing them down and not wanting to deal with them until I got to the point where I was really about to be in a very dire situation, and kind of got to the point where I kind of forgot kind of who I was. And I remember right before my um, 32nd birthday, I was in California. I was seeing this lady that I was dating at the time, and she was like, "You've changed," and I didn't think I had, but within a couple of weeks, by the time my birthday came around, it was extremely noticeable. So whenever I went home on leave for my birthday back down to Florida, and whenever I came back, I was, no better off, even though I had been home for a little bit, and was able to get my approval from my chain of command. I got involved in a PTSD group there at Fort Lewis. That was very intensive. There was a lot of soul searching and a lot of discovery, rediscovery, understanding, and you name it, what can take place in those kind of environments. And but it was needed. It was warranted. I grew a lot from that. Still had many challenges after that. Alcohol issues, thoughts of suicide, depression, anxiety. I still struggle with depression. I still struggle with anxiety issues. I am not depressed where I feel I'm suicidal. Those parts of the journey have passed, thank God. But this is also something that we share with every generation. Whenever you look at those guys who had to fight, say, a whole war at during World War II, you were there for the duration. What was it like for those guys? Because they had to literally just come straight back to work. They didn't have the resources that modern day service members who's deployed, or even if you've not deployed, we have resources that we can go to. And veteran, suicide and homelessness and so on and so forth is still a very big challenge that we all need to address. And it'll never be fully resolved, but we need to do everything we can to look after our brothers and sisters who's sacrificed along with us. And but over basically a 2-year period after I came back, that was a really hard, difficult, soul searching kind of an environment for me individually, personally. And then I get orders to go to South Korea, working in a post office in South Korea. That was at Camp Humphreys largely. That was a pretty good assignment. It wasn't, Korea itself is not a bad spot by no means. I'm not a big fan of the cold. Again, I grew up in Florida, and the winters in South Korea can be brutal. And that was not a happy time for me in the winter. But it's a challenge, and you have to overcome it, just like anything else. We were definitely not, being required to fight like the Marines at the Chosin Reservoir, the frozen Chosin guys, and so on and so forth. So there was definitely a distinction there and a difference.